Well, welcome, Converge. I'm here with a friend of mine, and we're going to have a couple minutes to get to know him. So, first, I want to start by asking, what's your name? Where do you work? What do you do there? Where are you from? And tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Thank you, Mitch. So my name is Agshin, and my last name is Jafarov. I am originally from Azerbaijan, which is country between Europe and Middle East and you name it, Central Asia. Um, I work as a director of outreach and diaconal ministries in Third Christian Reformed Church in Kalamazoo. In addition to that, I do part-time ministry with Reformed Church in America, and through Reformed Church, I work with refugees in the United States, especially in Southwest Michigan area.
Very cool. And you're a pastor, correct?
Yes, I'm also yes, as a minister, I work with Third Christian Reformed Church, and on behalf of Third Christian Reformed Church, I do outreach in Kalamazoo area, but I also help our deacons, to help them in their various projects.
Very cool. So, I'm a little familiar with Azerbaijan.
Yes.
I lived in Turkey. I knew some
Yeah.
people from there. And from what I understand, it's like 95% of the country is Muslim. So, how did a guy from Azerbaijan come to America and become a pastor?
Yes. So long story short is that I came to the United States because a Christian believer came to Azerbaijan, a professor from Western Michigan University, and we did research together. He was doing research on refugees because we have refugees from Armenia, and that's how we got connected. A friend of mine was his student. He put us in contact. He came to Azerbaijan, and when he came, he brought Bible with himself. I was a Muslim at the time. He brought the Bible and he encouraged me to read it. He was an anthropologist. So that's how my journey to become a Christian started. We read the Bible together, we discussed the Bible together, and I realized that Jesus Christ was better alternative, and in my view, deeper alternative and freeing alternative compared to what Islam teaches. That's my journey to Christian faith. I came to the United States first time 2005. I wasn't able to be baptized in my country because it wasn't safe. Like you said, it's majority a Muslim nation, so I wasn't able to be baptized there. I came here, was baptized in First Reformed Church in Portage. Yes, went back, and then several months later, I came to go to school. This time, I went to Western Michigan University for a short period of time to get my English going, and enrolled in seminary later, Western Theological Seminary. The the key point in my conversion was reading Gospel of Luke, first letter of John, which connects really love for neighbor and love for God and knowledge of God all together, and also book of Job, which really speaks about suffering. I have a brother who lost one of his eyes, which was a very traumatic experience for me. So these are the things that in short made me to become a Christian. They really opened my eyes to see that I have somebody in Jesus Christ who understands me, who loves me, and who can share my pain, who really answers my questions. So that's a short way of the long story. I don't know if that's short enough or long enough, but that's how I can squeeze it into less than a minute. So.
Sure. And what was your background prior to this, career-wise? What did you do in Azerbaijan?
Before becoming a Christian and slowly moving into ministry, I was a lawyer. I was working in Constitutional Court of Azerbaijan Republic. I was also teaching on university as a lecturer. I was also practicing Muslim. So I was attending mosque, obviously, doing all the things that Muslims are required to do. But I was practicing secular law because Azerbaijan is a secular nation, and as a Muslim, the things that I did as a religious person and the things that I practiced as a lawyer didn't often go well together. You know, there's a secular law and religious law in Islam, and that didn't go well together. So I was basically working in court, helping people, working in university, teaching students, and you name it, working with judge. I had a judge that I worked for, basically interviewing people for the case, putting together documents, and writing reports.
So at the heart, you're a researcher.
Yes, I love researching. That's very true. Yes.
And you took that process with your faith. Too,
Yes,
which
that's
is
very
really
true.
neat.
Yes. I did not become a Christian suddenly. It took me for really some time to become a Christian, exploring Bible, exploring Christian faith, separating what I see on TV, about America from my understanding of Christians in America, because people confuse it very often in Azerbaijan. So I had to learn how to separate that before I accepted Christ, yes.
And in that journey to accepting Christ, we're doing this new series looking at some of the big objections to Christianity. What were some of those big objections or some of those unknowns that you needed resolved?
Yes. So one of the biggest obstacle for me was actually a theological obstacle, because Muslims believe that Jesus Christ was not God's son. Actually, the Bible is corrupted. Christians corrupted the Bible. So Jesus Christ was a simple prophet. And I believe that because that's what Quran, the holy book of Islam, teaches. That was one of the biggest obstacles for me to overcome, and believe that actually Jesus Christ is God's incarnation. He incarnated among us. And I believe I resolved it by learning more about scripture, by reading a little bit more about Judaism, and see how Judaism expected Messiah to come. The other obstacle for me was this issue of culture, because the way I grew up is that your religion is part of who you are culturally. You cannot change your religion. If you change it, you are betraying your nation. That was one of the big deals for me, because I thought if I'm gonna become a Christian, I will be Americanized, and my people will refuse me even more, not just because of Islam. They will perceive me somebody who really betrayed his own nation. That was really big cultural obstacle for me to overcome. So in that sense, I would say these two were biggest ones that I overcame, and the second one I overcame basically interacting with Christians who were really from different ethnic groups, different backgrounds, and I realized that Christianity is a very diverse religion, very diverse faith. You know, it has nothing to do with Americans or Western Europeans. There are Chinese Christians, you name it, American Christians, there are African Christians, and that really prepared my heart to realize that I can be one of, you name it, God's child in this large family that is diverse in the church. So that's how I ended up, you name it, resolving these conflicts. Some of them actually I resolved after coming to seminary, say the Trinity, which was a big deal for me because as a Muslim I had no clue how to understand it. And as a Muslim there was a lot of prejudice against Trinitarian understanding of God, but in seminary I learned about those things, and that helped me to appreciate Christian teaching about God.
That's really cool. Well, it's been really good to spend some time with you.
Thanks.
And I'm grateful because you said you're going to be joining us
Yes.
For the service too. So if you have any more questions and you'd like to ask him and you're here, you can talk to him after the service. But I'm sure he'd be willing to catch up with anybody who's interested and ask more questions, and particularly if you have some of those, maybe a friend that you just want some advice on how to enter into that conversation.
Yes.
So thanks for joining us, and we are excited to continue on this journey through search.